I vaguely remember after I first joined the Catholic Church encountering people who called themselves Catholic Socialists or even Communists, thinking, isn't that like calling yourself a Jewish Nazi? Like, don't you realize that communists and socialists have been persecuting and even murdering Catholics and Christians for as long as they've been in power, everywhere that they've been in power? It seems to me like that's a strange bedfellow. If you surveyed the world that Karl Marx, the founder of Marxist Socialism, lived in, it would be easy to detect the disparity that he railed against. The stratification of society into classes was fairly obvious and in many respects institutional. And in the case of Europe, it was still very much a Christian continent, which meant that everybody was familiar with Jesus' teachings about taking care of the least and the last. So the fact that so many people went without the material well-being that they needed was an easy sore spot for would-be revolutionaries to level accusations at. And Marx, as well as every socialist apologist since, have called for what seems like an obvious solution. For them, the problems that afflict society are merely mathematical. The fact that some people don't have their basic needs met isn't because there isn't enough wealth and resources to go around, it's because some people have far more than they need. And that's true. So for Marx, the solution was simple. We just need to balance the equation. If X equals all the wealth and resources that are generated by society, and Y equals all the people who need those wealth and resources, and X is greater than or equal to Y, then all we need to do is equally distribute X to Y. The problem is, the reason some people have more than they need and some people have less than they need isn't because we're bad at math, and it isn't necessarily because our political systems are inept, even if they are. The problem that Marx completely overlooks is that the hearts of men are easily corrupted, as Galadriel recites in the opening to the Fellowship of the Ring. Wealth, honor, and power are among the greatest temptations that we face, and when they come within our grasp, we are confronted with a profoundly moral choice, which is to either keep it all for ourselves, the wrong one, or to find some way to see that it is distributed through an economic means to the community and among those who are willing to work towards its cultivation. That's the right one. Marx couldn't address these kinds of moral questions because they belong to the realm of metaphysics and religion, which he hated. Marx wanted a purely atheistic and materialistic solution to what he believed was a merely material problem. But questions of morality cannot be answered through the physical sciences or through observation. The physical sciences tell us what always happens, and then from those observations interpret certain laws. Morality tells us what ought to happen, whether or not it does. To address moral difficulties, you need to go beyond the material facts to the transcendentals like truth and goodness. And at that point, you come up to the fringes of religion, and in so doing, concede the fact that when we use words like reality, we're describing a lot more than just the material facts. So for Marx and his advocates, their mathematical solution has always been the same. All you need to do is create a political and economic system that will confiscate all the wealth that is generated and then redistribute it according to the values of X and Y, and then no one will ever go hungry or homeless again. But in every attempt to implement this so-called mathematical solution, that hasn't been the case. Instead, what we've gotten is oppression, fanaticism, starvation, and murder on a mass scale, and as well as a complete disregard for the dignity and individual rights of each citizen. So why is that? I would say it's because of the inherent blind spot that both Marx and therefore socialism have always had for the frailty of our resolve to do the right thing. Humanity has always easily been tempted to greed, lust, gluttony, and pride, and we crave wealth, honor, and power for ourselves. As an atheist, Marx insisted on rejecting religious notions of humanity's fallen nature. Again, for him, this was a mere mathematical problem that required a mathematical solution to be systematically implemented. But the glitch in any system is going to be humanity's moral defects. In order to redistribute all the wealth, you have to invest and commission a minority of people to balance that equation out. And they will then gain access to all the wealth and therefore power, and then be entrusted to redistribute it. Instead, what happens every time this is attempted is that minority of people who then acquire all that wealth and power keep an inordinate amount of it for themselves, and for their friends, and then use that system, this very powerful political system that was created in order to distribute justice for all. Instead, they use it against the masses to protect their new interests. And again, this is because every time we fall into something like wealth and power, we are faced with a moral choice, and we often fail in our moral choices, at least enough to cause problems. The Christian world understood this well, which is why it tried to correct it by appealing to man's moral conscience and religious piety. And it's that approach that gave us so many benevolent leaders who were able to inherit incredible amounts of wealth and power, but use it in the service of justice. People like Saint Edward the Confessor and Saint Louis IX, Saint Stephen of Hungary and Saint Elizabeth of Hungary, as well as Blessed Karl I of Austria. But among the leaders of communism, we find murderous, oppressive fanaticism. The quickest way to becoming a despot is to convince yourself that there is no such thing as morality, and then to neglect the need to guard yourself against temptation. St. Thomas More, who was an English statesman and one of Henry VIII's many victims, wrote a book and coined the term utopia, which I think literally means nowhere land, because he amusingly recognized that there will never be a paradisal society on earth because a necessary ingredient in society will always be humanity's moral infirmity. So the best thing we can do is to first of all recognize that fact, try to understand it, and try to do our best to correct it through faith and reason, as well as the grace of God, God who is goodness itself. Atheist revolutionaries of the 20th and 21st centuries rejected all aspects of the preceding religious ideas, like the doctrine of the fall of man. And then they proceeded to try to implement a system that would either prove them right or the preceding Christian generations. And if you ask me, the failed experiments of communism in the 20th and 21st centuries proved that the Christians were right. Thank you so much for watching that. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you got something out of it. And if you did, and you want to consume more content like this, then please consider subscribing to my channel. Or if you saw this on Facebook, then like my page and follow along. If you're on YouTube, it's not enough anymore to subscribe because YouTube wants to think that it can tell you what you should watch instead of what you actually want to watch. So in this case, you actually have to hit that little bell to be notified as to whether or not I've uploaded something more recently. So please subscribe and hit the bell at the same time. That really helps me out a lot. And if you could consider sharing this among your social network, that helps me a lot too. And if you want to support the making of these videos, please consider supporting my business, which is a communications and strategic marketing company who specializes especially in branding and web design. And this is especially catered towards ministries and apostolates and parishes. We have a parish web design system that we've built specifically for parishes and churches that is affordable, but also beautifully packaged and easy to use. So if you're interested in that, check out my business, which is holdsworthdesign.com, and hit the contact button in the navigation and get in touch, and we can figure out if there's a good fit for you there.